Hello and welcome to Trek Tuesday. My name is John Trent. I am the editor-in-chief at Bounding into Comics, and I am joined by my colorful cast of co-hosts, including Jorge, the Armored Otter Arenas, Donald Edmonds, and Drew, the Supreme Heretic. How are y'all doing tonight or today? It's not night
Doing
yet.
awesome.
I don't know. Has it suddenly become night?
It's night somewhere, right? It's night
Yeah.
somewhere in the world. It's kind of dark in here. That's why I thought it was night. It's not nighttime. I'm thinking it's Wednesday already. It's not Wednesday yet.
No,
This
not
is
yet.
Trek
Not yet.
Tuesday, and we're here to talk about Episode 8, The Passenger. So just to give you kind of a brief synopsis, if you haven't been following Trek Tuesdays, we do get into spoilers. The show has been on for a while. We mainly talk about Deep Space Nine. We sometimes talk about in the beginning as well what's happening in Trek. But I think we've kind of got that covered. I know Jorge's working on a piece regarding William Shatner, and then Spencer did the review of Lower Decks, and I think he's going to do episode 2 as well. But I think we just want to kind of
still alive. To be honest with you, I've been watching Lower Decks. These scenes from Raiders where the Nazis open up the Ark of the Covenant, and they all start face melting.
yeah. But we're going to talk about The Passenger, and I think we're just going to jump right into it. So just to give a brief synopsis, there is Bashir and Kira are out in one of the roundabouts named the Rio Grande. They encounter...
The runabout. Runabout. Not
What did I
roundabout.
call it? Yeah, runabout. Sorry.
The roundabout.
Sorry. A runabout, and they receive a distress signal from what is this race of people called?
Cobloids. Oh, Kobliads.
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 Yes, Kobliads. Looking through my notes here, I'm like, where? I know I wrote it down. Here, I wrote it. I have it as Kobliat, but I guess Kobliat. Is it with a D or a T?
Yeah, I had the subtitles on, so just had to make sure.
Is it with a D then?
Kobliad.
Okay, Kobliat. And then they encounter a vicious prisoner who is like a known murderer. And they even say murder isn't really an apt description for him. He's worse than a murderer. And he basically has this ability to like prolong his life, and he's figured out a way to do so. And then there's a mystery to kind of figure out how this guy is alive, even though his body is in the morgue. And it's like a nice little Law and Order style episode, I want to say, where you have kind of maybe not Law and Order, more like NCIS or CSI, where you have like doing a lot of science stuff. So it's a very Dax and Bashir heavy episode, and then we go into kind of the police aspect with Odo, and then trying to prevent a Deridium shipment from being stolen, which is this guy's name, who Vanta Ka is the Kobliad is this murderer, and he's trying to steal his Deridium to also, I guess, enhance his life or something, because it deals with the Kobliad. And I guess we'll kind of get into that, because that's kind of why is he still interested in the Deridium if his body's basically dead. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it. Let's just kind of go around the horn. What were your guys' initial reactions for this episode?
Well,
Yeah, Don, go ahead.
I guess it was a nice refresher of seeing everybody being used in this episode. We saw Bashir. There's one person we didn't see.
Yeah, he was still, I guess, on vacation. He's still celebrating his mother-in-law, I think's birthday.
Yeah, but for everybody else, it was great to see everybody just kind of being integrated into the episode. And then they introduced a new guy, which I don't know if he shows up later.
George Primin.
Primin.
George Primin, yes.
He just shows that up out of nowhere, and I don't know if he's continuing with the series, but okay, that's cool, I guess. But yeah, really, really great use of everybody in the show, and that's a testament to the good writing, where everybody gets to play a part, and an important part in this overall kind of scheme effort by this guy. And did anyone figure it out? a third of the way through the episode who it was?
Yeah, I think they kind
Yeah,
of give
it
it
was
away.
pretty
I mean,
obvious.
Yeah.
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 I think that's kind of the weakest part of the episode, but we can get into that later.
Yeah. All right. So Jorge, what was your initial reaction to this? What is your?
To me, it kind of reminded me of Clue, right? It was like their take on Clue, like who done it. It was interesting. Not the strongest episode, but I don't know. For me, it sure wasn't the weakest overall in the entire series. Maybe it's the weakest so far we've seen. But I like to echo what Don said. The fact that they utilized every major character the way they did was really nice, because over the last few episodes we watched a lot of duos and trios being utilized. You see a focus on 2 or 3 characters, not so much the entire main cast in one episode. So that was pretty cool.
All right, Drew. What was your initial reaction?
This is one of those like kind of sort of standalone episodes. For me, this was not one of my most favorite ones in the first season. I know when I saw this episode, I was just kind of like, it was very kind of meh to me, because it's like you said before, it was kind of it was almost like one of those procedural episodes where they're just it's a murder mystery kind of thing, and really and truly, I mean, it doesn't seem like they went too in depth about like the history between the two people, and why they're hunting one another, whatever their name was. Oh God, I forget.
Vantaka and
Yeah,
what's her name?
Kajada.
Kajada. Yes.
Yeah,
Kajada.
yeah.
Kai Kajada,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, it didn't really seem like it went into like a lot of history in between them to like really bring it out to the viewer why exactly there was I guess this sort of rivalry between the two characters. You want to call it that? It's just, I don't know. I don't think it was like the strongest episode. It wasn't the worst, but it's definitely not the strongest.
Yeah, I thought this was a quite enjoyable episode. It unlike some of the other ones, it didn't have any of the moral or ethic type discussions, which I don't expect that with every single episode, but there was that possibility, and at the very end of the episode, and we'll get to that, where there should have been some ethical questions raised, and maybe Cisco pushed back on something. So I'm surprised we didn't get anything there. That was a little disappointing for me. But I did like the almost how we got to see like a USB. They used that. I don't know if we already had those in the 90s, but they used that in Star Trek. And
It's a SIM card.
Yeah,
Yep.
a SIM card. And then I did like how I liked the idea of that they were looking at like being able to transfer like a consciousness to another body, and like kind of the science examination of that.
I like that callback to Star Trek 2.
Mm-hmm.
Rathacon.
Yeah, so I thought that kind of stuff was like really interesting, and it kept me along. And I just like how they made they took like almost a CSI, and I don't even know. I think this was a before CSI, but they took this like murder mystery case
like
and made it Star Trek. It was a Star Trek murder mystery case. It was fundamentally Star Trek, and I like that. So I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was. I enjoyed the episode. I would watch it again.
Well, John, I was going to say it felt like one of the old Law and Order episodes in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dick Wolf series, and you could really kind of see it reflected on here. And it's probably why they kind of skip some of the philosophical questions, which isn't terrible. But as you guys were talking about the pre-USB drive, wasn't really being used at that time during the 90s, but you saw it on Deep Space Nine being used in that episode as well.
Yeah, so we got some folks in the chat. Let's say hey to them real quick. We got Lopter, Demon King of Inferno. Thank you for joining us. I see Alexander Vidakovic has joined us as well. It looks like he's raising his hand to ask a question. If you have any questions, just fire them away. We do look at them here in the chat, and we will bring them up as well. So just shoot away, and we'd love to hear your initial reactions to this episode as well. And then when we get into our favorite parts and our least favorite parts, we'd love for you to share those as well with us. So let's get into that. We gave kind of a brief little reaction here. Let's get into our favorite parts. We'll start with you, Jorge.
All right. Well, again, my favorite part will definitely have to be the utilization of all the main cast. They did a really good job of spotlighting them all without it feeling that it was done on purpose. It's very natural with the story. It helped, for me at least, it helped with the episode to get through it a little bit quicker. Well, not quicker, but made it more enjoyable. And if there's one specific part of the episode I did like, we'll disagree on this probably, but it was when they pulled off the consciousness out of Bashir, and they just went and they destroyed it.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hinting at. There should have been some ethical pushback from Cisco there. There should have been it was just like, whoa, like she did that. I can't believe it. But there was nothing, there was no commentary, nothing there. And I thought that was just kind of.
Why didn't you do it earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bizarre.
That would have saved the entire episode, the need for that entire episode. I liked it because there was a lot of missed potential there. That's part of the reason why I liked it.
I do want to interrupt you there real quick. I think that there's no way for her to do that before because his consciousness has been transferred into Bashir right away. But I guess you're saying that when she had captured him in the ship or whatever, before we are even shown this episode.
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say? Okay.
Exactly. I mean, the episode happened because the prisoner wasn't managed properly, right? And that's pretty much screwed the pooch or everything. Yes,
I'll 100% agree with that. That just seemed I guess that's also the case that's where the ethical discussion should have come in. He was still in his own body at the beginning of the episode, and then now his body is dead, but he's obviously found a way to transfer his consciousness. His consciousness is still alive. Maybe there's something in the Kobliat's justice system with that. That's what I'm saying. There was a really missed opportunity for a discussion on that, and really diving into that piece of ethics, morality, fundamental morality of life.
All right.
Yeah, I think they failed on that part. I totally agree with you there. Sorry, interrupted.
No, that's all right. No, but definitely the destruction of the consciousness is my favorite part because it's something that you wouldn't expect from Trek, and you expect that relevance for life. Gotta let every prisoner have their time and day. You gotta let they gotta be reformed. So it shows that outside the Federation things are still pretty hairy out there because they're still outside of Federation space. So what Cisco could have done, he probably could have argued, but I'm still for me it's at this point in time in the series it's up for debate whether or not he had the clout in the area to really say no, you can't do that.
Yeah, I will agree. He kind of makes that. So I'll just jump in and say my favorite part again was Quark and Odo. I just can't get enough of that. And again, I thought the wordplay with them again in this episode was fantastic. Just them going back and forth with each other. So that was my favorite part. But then I also really liked I'm going to mute you. I don't know what you're doing. Cracking cans or something, or eating some chips or something. So I really liked how they showed Cisco dealing with Lieutenant George Primin, and then Odo has no idea that Cisco has already instructed Primin to basically follow Odo, but Odo confronts Cisco, and then Cisco makes it. When he's talking to Primin, Cisco tells him that this is still Bajoran ship, we're here at the Bajorans, and you need to kind of just this isn't a Federation station, and we're dealing with people who are outside of Federation. And then he says like you need to work with Odo. We're guests. Work with Odo. And then and then with Odo, he's just like you're in charge, and shows that loyalty to Odo. And I really liked that because it was also kind of like it can deal. It was almost like a microcosm of just kind of like work, like a workplace problem where you have you don't have a real clear. It's not clear who's kind of in charge and who's goes what, or if it is clear, it might not be clear to certain people, and then Cisco has to manage his employees to like figure out to make sure everything is working smoothly, because they're literally dealing with a potential terrorist who's like trying to like sabotage their station, and you need your two like top security guys to like be on the same page. And then I really liked how that little subplot finished with Primin discovered this shunt that would have like shut down the system for an hour, but he praises Odo for helping him find that, because he takes what Odo's advice was to look at the whole picture instead of the small one, and he applies that to find this other shunt. And I just really like that, and it just shows the leadership of Cisco, but also the character of Primin and Odo, that they were able to work through their initial disagreements and come to be seemingly respect one another highly almost by the end of the episode. And I really like that.
Yeah.
So those were my kind of favorite parts of this episode. What about you, Dom? What was your favorite part?
I actually liked Odo more than I did Quark this episode, because Odo was showing himself strong, and there was something I really appreciated that you don't see a lot in modern writing. Odo went up to Cisco and said, "May I have a word with you?" and took him over into private. And you don't see that in freaking the workplace anymore either. You have a private discussion with somebody about the problems that you have with them, and then you duke it out in private.
Yeah,
I don't see that anymore.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. It was a microcosm of the workplace, and really showing how you can like work things through. Whether like obviously in this situation, it had to do with like a leadership change, but you can apply what they showed there to a number of different different problems that you might be having with your fellow employees or whatever. Yeah, I really did. I did like that. Yeah, I think and you don't really see that anymore. Instead, it's like you'll see like blatant like disrespect on like the bridge of a ship, like F you, Captain, I'm doing it my way. Or
throw someone under the bus in social media. Freaking Tom King.
Yeah, Spencer here saying air it all out on social media. Yeah, that's exactly usually what we see now, rather than having people deal with it in like one-on-one conversations. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that's good that you pointed that out. Anything else that you enjoyed?
Like I said, the interaction within all the cast, and then I do have my. We'll get to the bad part soon, but
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hold on to that.
Okay.
All right, Drew. What was your favorite part of this episode?
It was interesting. One of the things I liked was at the beginning, like in the at the very start of the episode, like the teaser portion before we got into the opening credits and stuff, you can kind of see the interaction between Kira and Bashir, where, obviously the crew still new, everybody's kind of, getting used to one another and maybe earning one another's respect. And I feel like, there was that interaction in there between Kira and Julian, where she's finally giving him some respect for a change, because she's like, okay, maybe you're pretty good at your job essentially, and and then of course he has to be a smart ass and just telling her, so like, well, you're giving me my due. But
I think that's just part of his character. I don't think he was being smart ass. He's just so prideful and has like a huge ego. Doesn't even realize what he's saying.
But I like that, because you're seeing like the natural growth among them as a crew, and that was, I think, one of my favorite things, because there wasn't really anything. I don't think personally for me that stood out like it was an amazing segment of the episode. This is more like some of the interactions in this episode were my favorite part, and of course, we all I think collectively like the anytime we get like Quark and Odo interactions, because they're hilarious. But
Yeah.
But the stuff between Kira and Julian, I really liked at the beginning.
Yeah, that was actually something that I wanted to bring up too, that I have here in my notes that I liked. I'd like that you brought up. So like you get this like Bashir in the beginning who's very proud, full of his ego, but then by the end of the episode, he's like crushed and almost embarrassed that he was like taken over by this guy, and he has like no memory of it, and that he almost like caused like a major problem on Deep Space Nine, and I just like that kind of. He was like he humbled him. He found humility in what had happened to him. I thought that was like you saw that character growth in the episode with Bashir, and I like that as well. But from the beginning there that you're talking about with the respect that Kira was giving him, by the end, Bashir was feeling humble instead of having that boastful pride and ego show.
Go ahead, Don.
Character growth in Pimin, of all things.
Oh, we lost Jorge.
Oh, we lost Jorge. Character growth in Pimin, of all things.
Yes, Pimin.
Him going up to Odo and apologizing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That was my favorite part of the show. Part of my favorite part of the show was Primin and his interactions with Odo. Yeah, I love that.
It's just old school, just behind doors. You deal with your grievances, and you make your prostratings and respect towards parts of the chain that are above you.
Right, and then he got back to focusing on the job, and he was the one who found the shunt. And it was because of like Odo's guidance too. Like he gave Odo credit for helping him to find that piece. He didn't take it all for himself, which is also a contrast to what we saw with Bashir in the beginning, where Bashir was like, yes, like I'm like basically the greatest doctor ever. You would have never seen any other doctor like put a thing up your nose or whatever to like search for the bacteria. Whereas like Primin was thanking Odo for his accomplishment as well. Yes. Yeah.
There was a great piece of dialogue in this episode where I laughed because there was one, I think, between Primin and Cisco where he's like, if you want my opinion, and Cisco turns around and says, actually I don't. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. Where I loved how you saw like Cisco kind of telling him like, this is how it is. This guy's like very green to Deep Space Nine. He hasn't been through what the rest of the crew has been through already that we've seen, and he doesn't understand how everything is kind of working. And Cisco is like trying to like catch him up to speed like right quick, and he does. Primin does. I mean, I think there's that one time where he, so we still see that there's kind of this, I don't want to say hostility, but a rivalry maybe, where Primin like gives his advice as well on what they should do when it comes to like security, and Odo's just like, what are you saying? Like, did anyone ask you for your opinion? Like, what are you doing here? So I did enjoy that part a lot. That stuff a lot. All right, Drew, do you want to start off with what you thought was your least favorite part of this episode?
Trying to think. I would say probably for me, it seemed like the pacing for me, like as much as it showed off the main cast, and that was done well. There was still, like, to me, pacing issues with it where, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I
thought in the middle where the, what's her name, like, falls off, like, the, whatever she was doing, that just seemed really odd to me. And the whole part with, like Quark negotiating with the with the mercenaries seemed almost like a forced into the script, which I could see where you might see that as like a pacing issue.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they did that because like Clark's the natural, like sly but lovable criminal, and they wanted to kind of work that in, and that's a thing sometimes, where there's a specific character type, and they almost like put it in for the sake of, well, it fits the character type, but it's kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah, I didn't think that actually fit Quark's character that we'd seen so far. I mean, we've never really seen him hiring like armed mercenaries to basically take over a ship. He's usually a black market dealer. He's not someone who's hiring people to steal the goods. He's the one who's buying the goods that have already been stolen, basically, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that, to me, that I didn't enjoy that characterization of Quark because I thought it was a little off. They could, I mean, I guess obviously you use that, like you said, to typecast him or typecast the character, but I don't know. I also felt like it was just, what is the right word that I'm thinking here? It was just, it probably should have been a different character doing that.
Yeah.
And it also kind of showed, to me, it was a little bit of a crutch because it like almost like was like Vanta Ka had already known that Quark was there, which I guess possibly, like, I'm not really, like, I guess I don't know enough about the Kobliat to know if they would like be aware of Deep Space Nine, and they somehow he was already aware of the Deridium shipment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like I said, this isn't a terrible episode. It's just not one of those that, at least for me personally, and I'm not saying for anybody else that like enjoyed this that it's like objectively terrible. It's just not an episode that really like super stood out to me. This was more like a by the numbers procedural, as we mentioned before, and it wasn't really, there wasn't really anything of note that, if I was trying to think back, that would stick in my head as one of the pivotal episodes of this show, period, that would stick out about this particular episode. So yeah, it was just one of those for me, and yeah, I think for what I disliked about it was, yeah, there was that stuff in there that didn't seem like it naturally fit.
Yeah, Blue-Eyed Scorpio is saying it's probably because the issue could have been solved at the beginning of the episode, like you guys mentioned earlier, so they had to drag it out.
It's in the script, yes, Blue-Eyed. That's fine.
All right, Don, what was your least favorite?
I don't know. It's a toss-up between the three. There's Quark, which you mentioned, because now he's kind of like aiding and abetting in like an accessory to murder. Which,
yeah.
Consequences? Are there any consequences for Quark for, hiring mercenaries that killed 3 members of a ship and endangered pretty much that part of the galaxy with the Deridium?
Right. You would think that they would have ratted Quark out after they were captured, because there were still 2 mercenaries on board the ship. And I'm not sure if that one alien type creature was killed or if he was stunned or wasn't. It's not clear.
Yeah.
The phasers don't really tell you whether or not they're set to stun or not. They all shoot the same yellow beam.
You guys already mentioned the Tai Kajada and the Ventika backstory thing. But one part that really got me was Bashir acting like Ventika.
You're talking about Ventika.
Or Ventika, whatever.
Okay.
I didn't buy it. Him acting as somebody else. Yeah.
Okay.
Just kind of cringed for me.
It almost looked like they tried to make him darker. I felt like there was more makeup. Like he had like eyeshadow or something on when he was Ventika.
Yeah, it didn't.
I don't know. I think it was because we didn't know Ventika before. We'd never actually seen Ventika act outside of him like grabbing Bashir and like saying like love or something. I couldn't even make out what he was saying. Something love, and then then we see him. He's inside Bashir. We don't actually see him doing anything on his own, so we don't really know who this guy is. But yeah, I thought it was a little awkward too.
Yeah. I have no idea what he said. No. But he kind of in the beginning when he says tricorders don't really indicate what's really dead.
Right.
It's kind of a foreshadowing of the situation that he would get into. I just found that kind of funny. But
what was your third point that you said was?
You guys already said it. The whole backstory between
okay.
Ventica and Tai Kajada, like why not just? And that wasn't really explained.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, and obviously this is me just totally with a massive assumption, is that they're like, because it's a consciousness instead of a body, then there's some kind of like they make some kind of moral judgment there that what are they called again, the Kobliad make.
Kobliad. So
that's the only thing I can think of to kind of explain that. And I was like, that was really frustrating to me that they did that. I was like, what is this? What's going on here? All right, Jorge, what were your least favorite parts of this episode?
Okay, for one to stand out, would have to be Bashir. Now, hear me out. I think Alexander Siddig is a really good actor, but it was very, very apparent, especially when he became when the consciousness took over and he became, Mr. Evil guy. Him trying to, really deliver those lines and, come out as sinister, it just really didn't work. And it was obvious that the writers were still really trying to flesh out that character, right? He tried it. He tried. It just didn't come through for me. Because, first couple of episodes, he's been master simp, right? So that didn't help. And right, Don. Thankfully, that it gets corrected later in the series. But that pivot for Siddig, he missed up completely. And by the time the criminal takes over his body and he starts acting out, it becomes more of one of those spoof comedies more than anything else for me. So that completely wrecked the episode for me.
Yeah, I think the way he was acting, it was a little comedic instead of him it was almost like he was overacting.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem. I think he even made a mention of this a while ago, a long time in the early 2000s, that the first season, maybe first season and a half, they were really trying to flesh out Bashir as a character, and it really shows that weakness, and that is shown very, very well in this episode for me, because he wasn't able to translate well into that bad role the way you're supposed to when another actor's possessed and you've seen these different series. And him delivering some of those lines, you hit it right on the nail. It's more it looked more comedic, but you can tell they were trying to be serious.
I think it also I think they were trying to make the least intimidating character on the show the most villainous in this episode too. And I think it's hard to do that in a single episode. There needs to be a little bit more, to that.
What they're trying to really go for is a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation, right, with Bashir.
Yeah.
And by time at this point, the character really hasn't made as much of an impact it would have needed to, and Alexander was still very new to the character, so he just didn't have the footing to take that jump, and it showed very painfully when he did. So for me, that was the weakest point in the episode.
Okay. All right. Anything? Any other weak points or things you guys wanted to point out? Was there anything that I guess stood out to you as either not that great or?
I mean, Star Trek definitely, showing us a vision when it comes to technology, right? I don't believe USB drives were even used. You had floppy disks in the early 90s, but USB drives didn't become a thing till the late 90s, if not early 2000s. So
are you talking about the Isolinea chips, Jorge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw Dax use one of those. There was one part with Bashir that I found really interesting. So remember they're in that briefing room. Cisco's giving the briefing on what they're going to do. They're going to lock out Kajada from their security and everything because they believe she's the one who has Vantakov's consciousness within her. The way that they had Bashir and Dax like standing right next to each other. And Bashir was actually like leaning towards Dax, and I just thought that was kind of comical. A little bit hint that at the beginning of the episode where Quark is talking with Odo and saying that Dax is interested in him, and then also like how we've seen Bashir try and hit on her as well. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Even his body language in that meeting was like, "Yeah, I'm interested in her." They were almost like they were like right on top of each other, and then he was like leaning in towards her. It's just a little super tiny detail that I noticed.
He's always trying to hit on that.
Yeah, if she had an OnlyFans, he'd be the first sub.
Right?
All right, so we've kind of been lately. We've been doing scores at the end. Did you want to do a score for this one out of 10? Who wants to start with that? Who wants to go off with that?
I don't know. What did we rate the that weird one?
Out of 10, I give this a 5.5.
Okay.
I'm right there with you. I'm a little higher. I give it a 6.
Yeah, I'll
think
give it a
was
6.
A little bit above average.
You guys are super generous. Wow.
Dude, well,
You know what? If I'm a beggar,
was your
I'm
score,
gonna stay
Dom?
by your house. I give it 4 birds of prey out of 10.
4 out of 10. Okay, what was yours, Don?
6, just the same as you.
6. Okay. Yeah, I don't. I mean, so you're saying it was a bad episode, Jorge? It's a 4.
I was just saying it's a very weak episode.
Well, you've seen other episodes, so.
Well, yeah, and I know that's part of the bias there, but this is definitely weaker.
So 5 is like an average episode. 6 is a little bit above average for me. 8 is like outstanding. 10 is obviously perfect. That's kind of how I look at it.
No, I'm with you, and that's why I give it a 4 because it wasn't a terrible episode. It was just a weak episode. So if it was bad, it'd be a 3 and below. A 4 is it's below average. It's just weak.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any last words?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those things with this show and the first season. It's there's ups and there's downs because it's finding its legs and everything else. So you get that in the first couple seasons, but all in all, you're going to have that with any show. So I can live with that as a viewer.
That's excellent. Yeah, no, I mean, compared to other, especially the Next Generation's entry into Star Trek, this season's still stronger.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, there's some really good episodes in Next Gen in the first season. I think that the first season gets defecated on way too much. A lot of people, if you really got to watch and pay attention, not treat it as the background noise. A lot of people do when they watch shows on Netflix and whatnot. Yeah. But the quality of this show, you can tell the writers learned the lessons from the mistakes from the last crew in Next Gen. So that helped them a lot.
One of the things I did have a question for. Usually when we were watching Star Trek, people are beamed by another person. In the opening of this episode, we had Bashir and Kira were beamed onto the other ship without anyone else on the Rio Grande.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, you know what? They've done that Next Gen prior to that. Very seldomly. It's kind of like setting a camera to take a shot before it takes the photo, and so you can run in with your group and take a picture. So there have been instances like that where they'll preset the computer to beam them out at a certain point.
Yeah, there's definitely also like on the technical side, the runabouts have like emergency transporters that you can set too, You know, where nobody has to touch the controls. It's like set to automatic. So they can do that.
And unlike Discovery, the site-to-site transport is actually fleshed out by this point in time. They have the technology established. It doesn't just show up for the lulls like the premiere episode where you're like,
right?
What the hell is going on here? They don't have site-to-site transporters without a transporter. And what do you do when you pack? Okay, never mind. But you know what I mean, right? So they're already borrowing elements from pre-established lore very, very heavily when it comes to the use of the runabouts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you see in the Next Generation when they transport. I forgot what it was, but I think there was an episode where there was an unstable, something that was like an unstable material where they're able to transport it out of the docking bay and shoot it into space, right? And you don't need a transporting pad for that.
They did that with the egg.
Yeah, there's. This was a big deal. Like as Jorge was explaining, like in the entirety of the Next Generation era. So when you had like the 3 shows encapsulated, and you had TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, you had a lot of nice like lore continuity in that timeline because everything that was happening technology wise, there was a harmony to it, and they could like expand or contract on that via the 3 different shows.
Well, they explained it too very well.
And it was explained well. So
right, they didn't just say, "Hey, by the way, we can pull this right out of our rectums and make it happen." It's actually, "Hey, you remember that episode from like 20 years ago? Well, guess what? They made the technology better, and here's how." That was wonderful to see.
Yeah, there was always a nice continuity there with that stuff.
I will say that was the one thing I did like. I mean, I think that's probably why I gave this a little bit better scores, because I liked all the like different technology that they used, how they solved the problem, where they used the tractor beam to send the electrical wave, and then I liked how they repurposed the transporter to get the guy's consciousness out of Bashir's head. I thought that stuff was just kind of really unique to me, and that wasn't like you just don't see anything. You don't see like technology being used like that in modern shows. I just don't. You don't see that anymore.
It's those little pieces of attention to detail which is important, which is lacking now, right? What's it called? Oh, lost my. No, here it is. Perfect example. You have lowered standards. I mean, lower decks, and all they do was they hallmark back to their shows, but more they do it is more like cutaway gags that you see in Family Guy or something like that. It doesn't connect other shows with it. Here you have the mention of this piece of technology actually being used, and then. And actually built upon, which is a good element, because if you're rewatching a show and the rewatch is wonderful, you'll catch that in your second or third run through the series.
I also think it shows the innovation of Dax. Almost like she was able to they were able to, like, working with Bashir, they were able to figure out what had happened with this consciousness, and they almost like we got to see them like work through the process of reverse engineering it, and then she applied her like Federation technology to be able to find a cure. And I thought that was just really innovative and unique, and I found that just captivating.
Now, remind me real fast, guys. This is the first time we actually saw Dax utilize her position as a science officer on Deep Space Nine really well, right? I mean, before then it was hinted at. You saw a little bit of it, but this is the first time, hey, I am Dax. I do science. Check me out, right? So that was a nice little.
Yeah. The episode with the egg. I forget what that one was called, but I think she's kind of.
Scrambled. I'm joking.
Yeah. She shows off her science skills a little bit there.
A little bit, but it keeps growing. But this one kind of expanded on it.
And I think it plays off of the last episode where we got to really see. They talked about all of her degrees and everything that she had, and then they're like, "Well, we've talked about it. Let's show it." So then they showed it. Which, yes, again, I do agree. This is the one we really showed her acting as that science officer, and I guess we saw a little bit of it when she was working with Bashir with the disease too.
Yeah,
but it wasn't as big as this one, where she definitely played a much larger role in like solving the problem.
and that was part of the
and doing
element
it
of them
quickly.
using all their characters, right? You saw them, go through each person in this episode, and that was kind of a strong point because you saw them in their element. Hey, I'm command, I'm engineering, I'm science, I'm
Mhm.
medical. Um, in that regards, that was that's a good track. If you wear a blue uniform at that point in time, I know you're in the science division, right? If you're wearing a red uniform, you're in command.
Right,
Yep.
and like again, like they took that what you were saying there of showing everyone in their roles, but then they also delved into like who was in those roles with the subplot with what is his name, Primmon, Lieutenant George Primmon, and like
Yeah.
what is his role in relation to Odo. So I guess I don't know. I think the overall plot, I do agree with you guys that the overall plot was a little lackluster here, but I did like the details in this episode, and I really and like the subplots were what really kind of boosted the score up for me for this one.
Yeah.
Ooh,
All right,
shoot.
last words.
We're staring at you, Don.
I don't know. There was also this thing of like the conscious. Is that considered a life by the Federation?
They needed to explore that. They didn't explore that. They should have explored it, or even the Bajorans, because it was on Bajor.
Yeah.
Was that a murder? Yes, he released the consciousness into her custody, but that doesn't give her the right to do an execution, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking, man. It was like
I was like, what?
Like, okay.
You know what that reminded me of? There was an episode of Ultra Carbon where Kovacs picks up someone's stack where it has the conscious stored in, and he just freaking crushes with his hand.
Yeah.
Like, God, that's what that reminded me. I was like, ooh, okay, yikes.
Right, but it's a totally different character.
No, you're right. It's a different character, hell, different universe too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I saw that again. I was like, oh, okay.
And it's like, okay, we're just gonna let you do that. That's cool.
They just stood there in shock. They were like in shock. They weren't expecting that either. Like, did you see Cisco's face? He was like, "Oh, okay."
Well, again, it shows the brutality outside the Federation. People kind of forget things aren't hunky dory outside everywhere in the galaxy at this point in time. It's still pretty savage in different areas. And Deep Space Nine does a really good job of really exploring that throughout its run.
All right, so thank you all for joining us. I see John Willis is there in the chat. Thank you, John Willis. I saw Skullman, Barry on as well. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it, Mr. Hansy. Memes43 Yee. I don't know if hopefully I'm saying your name right, but thank you. Blue-Eyed Scorpio. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. And for those who have been in the chat, we also appreciate you joining us as well. We do this every Tuesday. We will be reviewing and discussing the next episode 9 or 10, depending on whether you have it, if you're watching on Netflix or how you're watching it. I think it's 9 on Netflix. It's titled Move Along Home. So looking forward to that one. And then tomorrow we have our Bounding Live, where we will have special guest Brett R. Smith joining us, and possibly Chuck Dixon. We will see. They're going to be coming to talk with us about their upcoming graphic novel Blood. So looking forward to that, and then just kind of joining in on our regularly programmed Bounding Live. And then on Friday, Spencer and I will be doing our Anime Rewind, where we continue reviewing Mobile Fighter G Gundam. And I think Spencer will be continuing his Lower Decks review, so look forward to those here. And then he's also continuing his God of High School review, so look forward to that as well. I think Drew is also maybe working on a Halo video, maybe.
Yep, I've got that to still come, and we've got a story about Dr. Disrespect that's going to be probably getting edited in a bit, and then hopefully up on the site later today, so you guys can look for that I wrote, and also for those of you watching on Twitch, or if you didn't know, we do have a Bounding Into Comics Twitch channel, and as it stands, John, I was going to tell you this. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and just like set aside some time every Sunday to start playing, a game on there so we can get some streaming content on our Twitch. So we're going to go ahead and start doing that. So on Sundays, look for look for me or somebody else to be live on the Bounding Twitch channel, and we will be doing various games on there. So yeah, look for that, guys. And
more Dead by Daylight is always good. I loved watching
Animal Crossing,
just wrecking people.
No.
Talk crap about that game, Don. Don't go to California. I'm closer to you than anyone else.
Yeah.
But, I echo what you're saying, Drew. Once I figure out how to set up my Steam labs and all that, and actually have time to do it, I got like Stellaris. We can do some themed runs. I found one on the rope, being the old Greek Empire. With have a really good time.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we could do. So, between all of us, we got pretty extensive library of games. So you guys will get plenty of gaming content on there, and we'll try to work out a more regular schedule for the Bounding Twitch channel. But at least for now, you guys can count on Sundays for some gaming content on there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. All right, so we will be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all for joining us, and we will be back for Trek Tuesdays next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Y'all have a good day.
Later.
Take care, folks.